Hey there, researchers, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're an English language teaching, applied linguistics, or English language studies scholar, you already know the intense pressure to publish in high-impact, index journals, right? You spend months, sometimes even years, designing a study, gathering your data, crafting the perfect manuscript, only to get that heartbreaking rejection letter. Well, today we are breaking down exactly why that happens when you submit to 3L, the Southeast Asian Journal of English Language Studies. Okay, let's dive into this, because understanding exactly what the editorial board is looking for is the absolute key to turning your rejection into a published paper.
25. That's a number I really want you to let sink in for a second. 25 weeks is the average time from submission to publication for this journal. That's nearly half a year of processing, reviewing, revising, and waiting. In the incredibly fast-moving academic world we live in, time is literally your most precious resource. So sticking around for this explainer is going to ensure you don't spend 25 weeks waiting in the dark, only to end up right back at square one with a rejected manuscript.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll be covering the desk rejection danger, surviving the peer review, the routine topic trap, a blueprint for journal acceptance, and finally, the publication workflow.
Before we look at why papers get rejected, let's briefly validate why 3L is such a highly desirable target for your research in the first place. It's a premier international journal published by Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia, or UKM Press. It's rigorously indexed in both Scopus and the Emerging Sources Citation Index of the Web of Science. The focus is specifically on English language studies in multilingual contexts, especially in Southeast Asia. Plus, with an article processing charge of about $300 or around 1,000 Malaysian ringgit, it's honestly incredibly reasonable compared to those exorbitant fees charged by other international publishers. In short, getting published here is a massive win for your academic profile.
Section 1. The Desk Rejection Danger. To get that win, we've got to face a really harsh truth right off the bat. The editorial screening is ruthless, and it has to be. But what's really interesting about this is how entirely preventable these immediate disqualifiers actually are. You know, papers don't just get desk rejected because the science is terrible. They usually get rejected because the author just didn't pay attention. If your topic is completely outside the journal's scope or the novelty is weak, it's an instant no. Poor academic writing, failing to follow formatting guidelines, or using an inadequate literature review with outdated references, those will sink you immediately. And of course, high similarity or plagiarism is an absolute, instant ethical failure.
Section 2. Surviving the peer review. So, let's say you properly format your paper, check your English, and make sure your topic fits. Great, you've passed the desk review. But now you face the expert guard. 3L uses a double anonymous peer review system. Reviewers don't know who you are, and you don't know who they are. What this means in practice is that a prestigious institutional affiliation or a well-known name will absolutely not save a weak paper. Your methodology, your theoretical framework, and your scientific rigor, they have to speak entirely for themselves. Evaluation is based 100% on merit.
And listen, if there is one merit-based rule you absolutely must burn into your memory today, it's this: no genuine research gap equals an automatic rejection. If you're merely replicating an older study in a new classroom without adding any significantly new knowledge to the international field of ELT, your paper just will not survive this stage. You have to clearly, explicitly articulate what is missing in the current literature and exactly how your paper fills that specific void.
Reviewers are going to scrutinize your submission, looking for other fatal flaws too. The crucial point here is rigor. If you have a weak or poorly described methodology, they'll catch it. If you draw these grand conclusions that simply aren't supported by the actual data you collected, they will call you out. They're also actively looking for insufficient engagement with recent international literature. We're talking studies from the last 5 years, and they'll absolutely reject papers that lack a strong theoretical grounding, like sociocultural theory or the technology acceptance model.
Section 3. The Routine Topic Trap.
All right, this brings us to what is probably the single most common pitfall for ELT researchers. Think about routine studies for a second. Things like the effective group discussion, or teaching vocabulary using flashcards, or just basic grammar teaching through activities. These are routine classroom studies. They are incredibly common, overdone, and frankly uncompetitive unless you have a massively novel twist. Now contrast that with high-potential themes: generative AI and ELT, prompt engineering, corpus-based language instruction, learning analytics, digital feedback. This is what the field is currently hungry for. There's a vast gap here between a guaranteed rejection for a tired, old topic and the strong international interest generated by high-potential, modern research.
Section 4. Blueprint for Journal Acceptance.
Okay, Now that we know what not to do, let's build a rock-solid strategy for success. We start with the skeleton of your paper. For empirical ELT articles in 3L, the IMRD structure is the gold standard. That stands for Introduction, Methodology, Results, and Discussion. Now, sure, you might add a literature review, pedagogical implications, or a limitation section, but that core flow always remains the same. You really can't be overly creative with your structural formatting here. Following the journal's specific author guidelines is mandatory.
When you finally get to the discussion section, which is arguably where reviewers spend the most time judging your actual contribution, remember this really critical rule. Do not just report that students improved. We know they improved. That is what the results section is for. The discussion section has to explain why they improved, how this happened within your theoretical framework, and what these findings actually contribute to the broader field of applied linguistics. You've got to connect your findings back to recent literature and spell out those practical implications.
And to back up all those claims, reviewers expect robust, rigorous analysis. If you're doing quantitative work, you should be totally comfortable utilizing t-tests, ANOVAs, multiple regressions, or structural equation modeling, along with reliability checks like Cronbach's alpha. For qualitative work, a rigorous thematic or content analysis is expected. But here's a vital warning for you. Choose methods that actually match your research questions. Please do not overcomplicate your statistical analysis unnecessarily just to look impressive. Just use the right tool for the job.
Section 5. The publication workflow.
Once your manuscript is finally submitted, here is exactly where those 25 weeks go. And this brilliantly illustrates why patience is key. Editorial screening takes about 1 to 3 weeks. If you survive that, peer review eats up another 8 to 12 weeks. If you're lucky enough to get a revise and resubmit, author revision takes you 2 to 6 weeks. Finally, the final decision takes 2 to 4 weeks, followed by production. This timeline proves exactly why patience, really prompt revisions, and getting it right the first time are so incredibly critical.
So let's summarize your workflow. Step 1, identify a highly meaningful gap, maybe utilizing AI or digital learning analytics, and develop a rigorous methodology. Step 2, write it up clearly in the IMRD format, ensuring absolutely pristine language and zero plagiarism. Step 3, submit it through the online system, wait for that feedback, and respond to the reviewer comments thoughtfully and carefully. And Step 4, after acceptance, complete the production requirements and monitor your Scopus indexing. Following these exact steps is going to greatly increase your chances of acceptance.
Well, we've covered the desk rejection dangers, the rigorous peer review process, the trap of routine topics, and the exacting blueprint for success. So I want to leave you with this provocative question. Is your manuscript truly ready for 3L? Before you hit that submit button, just take a step back. Review your work ruthlessly against the blueprint we just laid out. Find the gap, refine the method, and elevate your topic. The 3L editorial board is waiting. Are you ready?